Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today. I'm Irfan Sabir, MLA for Calgary Buller McCall, and Alberta's official opposition's Justice Critic. I want to acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional lands of Treaty 7 people, and I also want to recognize and acknowledge Métis people of Alberta who share a deep connection with this land. Earlier I have sent a letter to Justice Minister Tyler Shandro formally asking an investigation into political interference into the justice system by Danielle Smith. By Danielle Smith's own admission, she has interfered in multiple prosecutions. And while the story changes each time, every explanation she has given warrants an investigation. First, she told a far-right website that she spoke to Crown prosecutors and asked them to conduct a review of cases to ensure they were in the public interest. Then she told media that she speaks to Crown prosecutors on a regular basis about ongoing cases. Following widespread criticism of these comments, Danielle Smith tried to backtrack and claim she didn't speak to Crown prosecutors. Rather, she spoke to the Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General about these cases. But this version of events is no better. It is highly inappropriate for the Premier to question the Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General about the decision to proceed with specific prosecutions. In fact, this is exactly what led to the SNC-Lavalin affair, in which the Prime Minister questioned the then Federal Attorney General about a specific case. This ultimately led to an investigation and the resignation of both the Attorney General and the Prime Minister's Principal Secretary. Here in Alberta, we have also seen investigation into the interference of justice system when Casey Meadow called the Edmonton police chief over a traffic ticket. Justice Adele Kent's investigation was completed in 33 days and found that Minister Meadow attempted to interfere in the administration of justice. In the end, Meadow was relieved of his job as Attorney General. I would argue that Smith's conduct is an even more serious case of political interference in the justice system, and it requires an independent investigation. While the investigator looking into Smith's action must have a free hand, I suggest that investigation should examine the exact details of all interactions between the Premier and her staff with the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, and any other officials in Alberta Justice regarding current prosecutions. The actions the Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General took following the conversation with the Premier, whether or not a review of these cases occurred, and which action that review included, and whether or not the Premier interfered in the administration of justice. Albertans must have trust and confidence that prosecutorial decisions are entirely free of political interference and bias. There must be an investigation into Danielle Smith. Thank you, and I'm happy to take your questions.
All right, thank you, Irfan. Before we go to the phones, we'll start with any questions in person. No questions in person. We will go to the phones. Just a reminder for those joining us on Zoom to use the raise hand function, and for those joining us on the phone to use the *9 function to get into the question queue. Our first question goes to Dean Bennett. Go ahead, Dean. Your line is open.
If you look at the most innocuous version of what she has said, it's just simply meeting with the Attorney General and the Deputy to remind them of what they already know. Why would that be a problem?
Deputy Attorney General, as head of the prosecution branch, is entitled to same independence as any Crown prosecutors. That's why Premier asking about a specific case, in this case COVID-related charges, is offside, and it's an interference in the administration of justice. It compromises the independence of Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General.
Do you have a follow-up, Dean?
Yeah, so the NDP leader, Rachel Notley, has said that there's some lying going on here. Do you accept that, and how important is it for a premier not to, to be truthful with Albertans? And on that point, do you think there's something going on with the Arctic Winter Games? We still cannot get any evidence or proof months later, or even from the premier's office, that she actually made the calls she said she did.
Thank you, Dean, and it's an important question. When that Arctic Games story came out, Premier claimed publicly that she had made phone call, asked her ministers to make such phone calls, urging these organizations to drop mandate. Then she claimed she had withheld funding. And none of that was true. In this case, she talked to that far-right website and then to the media, saying that she has been in touch with Crown prosecutors, reminding them of their job, essentially, and asking them, as new cases come out, whether such prosecutions are in public interest, whether there is a reasonable likelihood of conviction in these cases. Then Justice Department clarification denied it. So clearly, Premier was not being truthful in both these instances, and it's the kind of pattern of behavior that's going around. And I would like to add that Premier musing about these things publicly, whether she reached out to Crown prosecutors or not, and then talking to Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General about these specific cases, is an interference in the justice system, and it must be investigated.
We'll go to our next question from Catherine Guzowski from Alberta Today. Go ahead, Catherine, your line is open. Catherine, you might want to try again. Your line is muted. Fortunately, we're not getting any audio from you, Catherine, so we will follow up with you afterwards. We'll do one more pass for questions. Just a reminder to use the *9 function or to use the raise hand function to get into the question queue. And last call for questions in person. All right, with that, we will wrap today. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.